don't know where to start with this episode. The TARDIS travels back to 1963, where the Doctor and Ruby encounter a world where music has gone wrong. It can only be the start of The Devil's Chord, the second episode of the new season. This video will contain spoilers, so you've been warned, and it's really late at night, and I'm ever so tired. Nevertheless, it's time to face the music as we go beyond the sofa. I should have labelled this video Hijinks. You know, hijinks, like the Harbinger gag at the beginning. Because gag is one of those words that I'm associating with this episode. It is full of gags and little moments and little set pieces that really bring things to life. In my Space Babies review, I said that there were moments where Shutee didn't feel like the Doctor. That's not true in this episode at all. I don't think he puts a foot wrong in it, and I'm not just talking about the dance number at the end. We've got a cold open set in 1925, and we see Timothy Drake first releasing Maestro into the world. It's a really nice introduction to the character, and the first time that we see a proper fantasy element come into play in the actual series. There's a few firsts here, actually. The first cold open, the first actual death in the series, and it's done really well, balancing out the camp of the villain with the horror of what's happening. This episode only works if you believe in the villain and the juxtaposition between their actions and the consequences that arrive. I think Jinx does a mostly good job with this. There's some terror, there's some menace there, although later on in the episode, it's hard to watch without thinking the character is more of a sort of screaming child playing with its food rather than an all-powerful deity of some description. I think that's mostly in the production choices. Perhaps it would have been nice if we would have seen some sort of augmentation on the voice in some of those really shouty moments to take the character beyond the confines of what a human can do with their voice. Just a thought, but other than that, I've got very little bad to say about the episode. I love that the end of the cold open leads into the theme, which we then see played out on the TARDIS jukebox. I love having a different lighting set up in the TARDIS and a wonderful choice of music as they decide to dress up for the 60s. In fact, the music and the use of sound in this is incredibly good, even down to the music which is meant to be incredibly bad. Having Maestro remove music from the world is a fantastic way to get around using any of that music in the actual episode, something which even Disney wouldn't be able to afford. And then we get some brilliant character moments as well, where we get to see Ruby's connection to music. This is really important because it would be easy but lazy to suddenly reveal that Ruby can play the piano. But not only is it set up, there is a flashback to remind the audience, and that leads us into a really nice moment for the characters and a little bit more of a reveal about who the Doctor is. We get a mention of Susan, we hear about Totter's Lane. It's nice stuff for new audiences, but it's also nice to hear as a long-time fan. I love the look of the 1960s here. I love the grading of the image and that it wouldn't look out of place if you saw a few of those shots in an old Beatles documentary. The production quality here really shines, and you can see where they've spent their money. But for a show about music, this episode has one really lovely sequence, which is purely visual storytelling. When the Doctor removes all sound with his sonic screwdriver, we get treated to an elongated section where the only thing telling the story is the image on the screen. It's a testament to the direction that this section works ever so well, right down to the smashing of the bottle. We also get to see the Doctor's real fear here, and that his soul was, ripped in two. It's all good dramatic stuff, and it's nice to see the Doctor face a villain that he thinks he could never defeat. And that's where the character is, until the moment that he realises that there is a way out of things. One slight criticism here, Ruby seems far too trusting and far too knowledgeable about the Doctor for what is actually a second adventure. Perhaps this was originally intended for later in the series, who knows. But I would have had a little more of searching each other out before we moved into such familiar Doctor-companion territory. There's another callback in this episode as well to Classic Who, where Ruby sees what the world would be like if they didn't stop Maestro. It makes me want to watch Pyramids of Mars again, to be honest. So, armed with the knowledge of how to stop Maestro, they go back to the 1960s. The final showdown plays out, which is quite nice. You get a good moment where Maestro tries to get Ruby to sing, only to say there's something wrong with her. And that worked really well. And you get some really nice reverse camera work, which I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of that with Maestro, because one of the things that I didn't feel so much with Maestro is a sense of impending doom. Yes, we're shown what will happen, but I think it would have been nice to see maybe, I don't know, a higher body count just to drive home how dangerous the character can be. If I had any real criticism of the story, it's basically that the resolution of this story is a Deus Ex Machina moment. The Doctor doesn't cause it. If John and Paul weren't there at the right time, it wouldn't have happened. And there must be a solution out there where the Doctor or Ruby could have been the ones to either, I don't know, solve the problem or maybe even set up the solution itself. If this was the Sylvester McCoy era, it would have been hinted that the two Beatles weren't there by accident, even if we don't see, exactly how the Doctor did it. Finally, I want to talk about that last musical number. Now, I've got a degree in performing arts. I like a good musical number, but I would have liked it integrated into the show somehow. In fact, when I originally saw this trailer, that's kind of what I thought we were in for. It's almost as if we were sold one thing and then we were given something else. Sold might be too strong a word, I don't know. But we didn't get that thing in the end. We didn't get that thing that kind of appears to be part of the trailer. I also wasn't too keen on the song, truth be told. There is a lot of space, I think, for musical numbers in Doctor Who. Perhaps not as a coda to a whole episode, it could have been nice if that performance was part of a Crossroads style battle of music with the devil in one corner and Johnny in the other. It'd work. In fact, they nearly do that in the episode anyway, but it'd work because the Doctor at that point could be trapping into the reality bending power of Maestro once that battle is called, and the prize perhaps could be Ruby. Of course, that may have been too expensive. I don't know. Overall, then, The Devil's Chord was a nice romp around 1960s London that fell into, I suppose, a modern retelling of meeting the devil at the crossroads. It's fun, it's funny, it's camp, it's playful, but it also has some real stakes that make the drama elements very appealing. Millie and Shutee have really found their feet on this one, and I think it's going to be a fan favorite. I think that all of those fun elements people are going to want to see again and again. That's what I think anyway. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you've not checked it out yet, do head over to my Space Babies review as well. That's it. Until next time, thank you ever so much for coming along, and do join me the next time we go beyond the sofa.